Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to continue our NFL predictions with the Kansas City Chiefs. And last year, people said the Chiefs were more lucky and good, and in the Super Bowl, it showed. There were a lot of games that the Chiefs had that came down to like the last minute or so, or perhaps overtime, and they went 15 and 2, which was the NFL's best record. And I know a lot of fans were saying the a lot of fans were saying, and myself included, that they were rigging games for the Chiefs. Some of it is believable. Some of it doesn't have a lot of other times it doesn't have a lot of weight to it. But the Chiefs went to the Super Bowl for the third year in a row, and while they had a chance to three-peat, they fell flat on their face in the game's biggest stage. And now looking at their last year's schedule, sure the Chiefs went 15 and 2, but if you dig a little deeper, a lot of their games were decided by one score or less, and especially after for their bye week in week 6. And I bet we gonna count in one hand how many games Chiefs won by multiple scores. And looking at the schedule, I think it was like 4. And their only legit loss in the season was against the Buffalo Bills. And let's be real, no one's counting that Denver Bronco loss. Chiefs were resting starters. They possibly fixed the game so the Bengals couldn't get in. And yeah, it helped the Broncos get in the playoffs though. I'll give them that. And then in the playoffs, they beat the Houston Texans, beat the Bills under some very questionable calls, but their luck ran out when they got shellacked by the Philadelphia Eagles. In a game I think no one was happy with the outcome. So, with this let's hope the Chiefs repeat their success, or is it time for someone else in the AFC to reign supreme? Let's take a look. All right, Chiefs, let's take a look at your schedule. And we're going to start things off in Brazil against the Chargers. And I do think the Chargers, they want a piece of Kansas City this year. So I'm going to give the Chargers an opening day win over the Kansas City Chiefs. Then the next two games, I have them beating the Eagles and beating the Giants, as I've already done predictions for those two teams. In week 4 against the Ravens, this one's going to be very interesting because if you don't know, the Ravens was a toe drag swag away from winning that game. But for this one, I think the Ravens will get their revenge. I got them losing at home in Arrowhead, which just sounds crazy if you think about it. Week 5, they got the Jaguars on Monday night. It's a road game, road Monday nighter, but I do think the Chiefs will get it done here. And it takes us to week 6, Detroit Sunday night. That's going to be very interesting. And even though I don't think that highly of Detroit this year, I think Detroit gets it done on the road. So that's 2 Arrowhead losses at home. But the next 2 games, I'm going to go ahead and give them a win against the Raiders. And I'm going to go ahead and give them a win over the Washington Commanders. But this sets up another Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes. If you don't know, Josh Allen can beat the ever-living crap out of Patrick Mahomes in the regular season. But when playoff time comes, Josh Allen folds like a fiddle against Patrick Mahomes. And with the assist of ref ball, but we're not having that conversation now. And with this game being in Buffalo again, I'm kind of torn on this one. But I'm going to go get it, but something's telling me I'm going to take the Chiefs on the road. This might be like their road momentum game that they're going to have. And now after their bye week, they have the Denver Broncos. One team's coming off a mini bye. One team's coming off a bye-bye. I'm going to go with the Broncos getting a win there. Now we got the Indianapolis Colts. I'm going to go ahead and give them a win there. And this takes us right into Thanksgiving Day with the Dallas Cowboys. I think the Chiefs are going to beat the ever-living crap out of them. And on Sunday nighter against the Texans, while I do think the Texans are going to have a good team, I don't think they're on the same level as Kansas City. Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to continue our NFL predictions with the Los Angeles Chargers. And year one of the Harbaugh went smooth. They made it back to the playoffs. The defense looked vastly improved from whenever Brandon Staley had running. But there was one Achilles heel with this Charger team, and that was the offense. More so wide receiver. Because while Lat McConkey had a pretty good rookie season, everyone else had hands of inconsistency. I'm glaring right at you, Quentin Johnston, and it showed in their one and done playoff game against the Houston Texans. Hopefully, year two gets better for Harbaugh, and they could go beyond the wild card round. And looking at their schedule from last year, they went 11-6. And like I said, it was more so a smooth 11-6, an 11-6 team that honestly everyone forgot they went 11-6 because they swept the Raiders, they swept the Broncos, but they got swept by the Chiefs yet again. But in between all that, I mean, sure they lost to the Cardinals and Ravens and Bucks, but but again, it felt like things just went normal for the Chargers. It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. It wasn't standoutish. It was kind of a normal team. There wasn't much I gotta say. But I will say they did have a standout game against the Bengals. That was a come from behind thriller. And yeah, that's pretty much the Chargers. What regular season. But in the wild card, oof, it was pretty rough. Herbert, he probably had one of his worst games since his rookie season. Okay, Chargers, let's take a look at the schedule, and I just hope they fix their wide receiver room. The first three games are all in the division, and I don't think that has ever happened in the NFL where they take on all three divisional opponents in the first 3 weeks. But since I've already done the Chiefs, I actually have them winning against the Chiefs. Week two against the Raiders, I'm gonna go ahead and give that one to the Raiders. I do think the Raiders are gonna be a little better this year. And then the Broncos, week three, I'm gonna get them a win there. Week four was against the Giants. I already had them as a win on the road. And then we got a week five game against Washington. To me, that one's a toss up. But since I think it's a toss up, I'm just gonna slight myself towards the home team there. Week six is against the Dolphins. I'm gonna another situation where I'm just gonna take the home team. Week seven, I'm gonna go ahead and take the Indianapolis Colts in this. No, not the Colts. I think the Chargers get a home win, bounce back against the Colts. For some reason, I'm not that high on the Colts this season. Week eight against Minnesota, I think the Vikings shock them on the road. Vikings will get a road win against the Chargers, and that means week nine against the Titans, which is coming off a mini bye. I actually got the Titans stunning them as well. Week 10 against the Steelers. Another team I'm not that high on, but you know the Steelers, they're going to somehow get 8 wins on the season. And against Jacksonville, I'm going to give the Chargers a revenge road win against the Jaguars. At their bye week, and then they have a week 12 bye week. Interesting bye week there. Week 13, I think they split with the Raiders. Week 14 against the Eagles, which is another toss-up game. But I actually gave Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to continue our NFL predictions with the Denver Broncos. And it's safe to say that the Broncos were the surprise team of 2025. Bo Nix was able to adapt in Sean Payton's systems very quickly, and the Broncos made it to the playoffs for the first time since winning the Super Bowl back in 2015. But don't let Bo Nix play distract you to the fact that they did have Patrick Surtain, who quietly won the Defensive Player of the Year for 2024. Sure, the Broncos were bounced by the Bills in the playoffs, but if you're a Bronco fan, take what you could get. This is a promising start on what's yet to come. And looking at their schedule from last year, got off to an 0-2 start against Seattle and Pittsburgh, but then they rattled off 3 straight wins. In fact, they won 5 out of their next 6 games afterwards. But they did get killed by Baltimore. Kind of got screwed out of Kansas City. But overall, the Broncos did enough to make the postseason. And even though they did beat Kansas City in the last game of the season, where, let's be real, Kansas City fixed that game to keep Cincinnati out. But this is not Kansas City's video. Broncos made the playoffs. And in the playoffs, they were sadly bounced by the Buffalo Bills pretty badly. But I think they walked out of that building with their heads held high, knowing that next year there's hope for them. Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to continue our NFL predictions with the Las Vegas Raiders. And the Raiders were in a crap position in 2024. Without a substantial quarterback and losing Josh Jacobs in the offseason, this team was going to struggle. And while what Antonio Pierce did in 2023 was inspiring, it didn't carry into 2024 as it was revealed that he was in on his head. Now Pete Carroll's going to be taking the reins as head coach, and he's bringing Geno Smith from Seattle to help be the quarterback. Ashton Jeanty from Boise State, he was drafted to carry the rock. Things can look better for the Raiders, but I don't know. It's going to take let's say it's going to take some time to justify that means. But things weren't all bad for the Raiders. They started off 2-2, stealing a win over the Ravens and then beating the Browns in week 4. But then, I think they lost like 10 straight games afterwards. Exchanging between quarterbacks, they had Aiden O'Connell at one time, Gardner Minshew. He missed the rest of the season due to a broken collarbone. And then they started Desmond Ridder at one point. Yes, it got that desperate. And many people have, I want to say right around after the Black Friday game against the Chiefs, they said, I think the Raiders fans said, let's just lose out. Lose out, go for an elite quarterback in the draft, and rebuild from there. That would be the case until they won their last 2 meaningless games against the Jaguars and the Saints. Meaning that they pumped themselves down to 6. At least they got Jeanty Ball out of it. Hopefully Jeanty Ball can do what he did in Boise State. So let's take a look at their schedule. Okay, Raiders, let's take a look at your schedule. And since you're the last team I've done predictions for, I'm going to ramble, and I've done pretty much predictions for every team. I'm going to ramble through these pretty quickly. So let's go. So let's start. I have the Raiders losing to the Patriots week 1. I have them beating the Chargers week 2. Week 3, I have them losing to the Commanders. Then week 4, I have them beating the Bears week 4. Week 5, I have them losing to the Colts. Week 6, I have them winning against Titans. Week 7, I have them losing to the Chiefs. So far, the Raiders have been win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. Week 8 bye. Week 8, I have them winning over the Jacksonville Jaguars. I have them losing to the Broncos on Thursday night. But week 11 against the Cowboys, I have them losing at home to this one. And that might be the only blemish that they're gonna have at home. Week 12, beating the Browns. Week 13, beating the Chargers. Week 14, beating the Broncos. They're gonna split. Week 15, losing to the Eagles. Week 16, losing to the Texans. I think they win out against the Giants and beat the Chiefs because the Chiefs may be resting starters at that point, which brings their record to 8-9, which will not be enough for them to make the postseason. And on that note, that concludes the Raiders' predictions. Tell what y'all think in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Gamble safely, and I'll see you next time.